And we're going to go through some tips and tricks. Really, today is more of a content strategy kind of day, and we're going to talk a little bit about some ideas for helping to keep your website up to date. And then I have also a bonus tip for you as well, so you can stay tuned for that. It's been a little while since we have gone through some of the links to the various resources that are available, so I thought I would do that this morning. Feel free to visit the Biology Information Technology website. You'll find some information on there about our team, so if you're interested in learning more about who we are, please check that out. And I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself yet. I'm Ann Griesel. I think I forget to do that sometimes. Part of the Biology IT team. My role here is mostly project management and training. You can also see the luggage showcase if you visit our luggage website and go to /showcase. This will show you some websites that are using various features that you might be interested in looking at, so you can filter quite simply there, as well as by category. And you can even see sites or visit sites and filter them based on who's managing those sites. So luggage is I'll say a platform. Really, what that means is that luggage is a bunch of features bundled together that operate based on the content management system Drupal. So on the base we have Drupal, and then on top of it we have luggage. And then if you look at this in layers of a cake, on top of that, our third layer is the ISU theme. So actually how to visually kind of see your content in the ISU theme. We pay attention to responsiveness, so your site is visible on mobile devices. We also watch for accessibility in our development and make sure that our websites are accessible. So we are looking at the WCAG 2.1 standards now, and so you'll be able to rest assured that we try to put some bumpers on for you so that you'll pick the right colors that have the right contrast and follow those guidelines. Another website that can be very useful in that regard is the Digital Access website, and I know Iowa State, I think, is in the process of working toward getting an accessibility coordinator, but there is some great information out there still on the site, and so please feel free to take a look at that. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about reviewing content and getting the most from your website data. So sometimes this is a little bit of a challenge. When I look at it, I kind of sometimes think there's a huge mountain in front of me when we start to work toward migrating a site or updating a site. I get the same feeling I think that some of you as content editors get when you're looking at your content. And it can be, we'll say, maybe not as motivating. Especially if you've had a site up for a long time, if maybe it's a site that you're taking over that's been edited for years by other people, and so you've got a lot of content kind of looking at you. Hopefully today you can walk away with a little bit of motivation and excitement and sort of a method to the madness for digging through that content and taking a look at it. We're going to look at it from the perspective of cleaning out your closet. So if you're like me, you may have a closet that has many things in it, some of which should be in it, some things should not be in it. Sometimes there's a house guest coming and I shove everything in my closet and shut the door. Sometimes, I do take time to go through it, but we have definitely items that you may not need anymore or could use some organization, put it that way. So let's talk about how your closet might be like your website. And when we tackle a closet in my house, usually there are 3 bins that the items can go in. There's a keep, a throw, and a give. So I think that this just happened to sort of come to me as an idea when thinking about organizing a website, and I thought I would share this concept with you and help give you some things to think about in the keep, throw, and give bins. You know, how to determine what to do with the content. But if you decide to put content in a certain bucket, there are a few questions that you should ask yourself just to make sure that it's in the right one. So we're going to go through that today very quickly, and if you have questions, please let me know as we talk about this. So first, we're going to talk about the keep. So this is really your core information. This is the content that has to be on your website. It has to do with maybe your course information, your department, basic information, your contact info, all of the things that are very core that need to be and need to stay on your site. Much like some of the items in your closet that stay there all year round, kind of like a core wardrobe. It would be super fantastic if that was truly the case for me and that I switched everything out in the seasonally and everything, but just don't get me wrong, that does not happen in my house. But it is kind of a nice way to think about it. You know, if you have some core wardrobe items that should be in your closet, always kind of there, you know, like, oh, I need black pants, I'm gonna replace black pants when the black pants go bad, whatever. You can think about your content kind of like that. So first of all, it's important to determine what that is. So what are those items? And that might be something that you could talk about with a department chair, some of the administrative stakeholders, some of your coworkers that you work with that have to do with the website content. Whoever you feel that, and you all know who these people are, that you need to talk to kind of determine what that core information is, that's going to be very helpful because it's going to help you know where your base is. You know, what's the base? What is the minimal amount of content that I need to have on my site that is absolutely vital? So that's the first thing. The second is your core information getting visited? Like, are people finding this core information? Because if they're not, then that's something that needs to be addressed, and we'll need to find out how to get it up to the forefront so that it's found in search and that people can get to it easily when they're looking at your site. And when was your core information last updated? So is it correct? Is the information that you have on your website actually correct? Did that address change when we all had to add the street in? Did that get done everywhere? Was there a phone number that needed to be updated? Is there new course information that needs to be shared that's not online yet? Those sort of things should be thought about. So how do you determine if your information is getting visited or found? One of the best things to do is to look at your analytics report. So you'll want to take a look at the report that's sent to you every month, and on one of those pages you're going to see the page URLs. So you're going to be able to tell kind of where people are visiting most, what pages are folks going to, and what's getting the most unique. Usually unique page views is what we want to look at. So we want to look at this unique page views column to kind of see what's getting visited the most. So if you know, like, your contact information is up there, your grad students tab is up there, you're doing a pretty good job of getting the information or the content in those places to folks that are visiting the site. So this is a way to do that, and I think it's a good idea. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. It's a good idea to just take a look at this information to help you determine if it's getting found. Additionally, if you would like, I can help get you some information on going a little deeper. So if you'd like to really see all of the pages in your report and where they're at, I can help you do that. So please let me know if you're interested in taking a little bit more of a deep dive into those. From there, we'll talk in a more about that second bullet in the give section. But if you're finding that your content is not visible and not showing up in search results, then there are some things that you can do for that. And like I said, we'll get to that a little bit more in the give section. So throw. Which content is no longer useful and can be deleted. Sometimes things just get worn out and they need to be thrown away. So before you hit the delete button, there are a few questions that would be important to ask. First of all, is that old content getting visited? It might not be accurate content, but if it is popular, so maybe it has a strong following, like at some point there was a campaign and people have bookmarked that page and they're continuing to revisit it, whatever it may be. If it's old content, you obviously don't want to be promoting bad content, so it's good to find these pages, but you also don't necessarily want to just delete them and give people a 404 error. Because sometimes if they're visited quite often, if they're getting a few thousand hits a month, sometimes we have sites that are getting a few thousand hits a week. If this page is getting visited often, then you don't want people to get a bad taste in their mouth when they get a 404. So one thing you can do is redirect that page to a new page that has the most recent content on it. So if you know that you've already put that old content, updated that old content somewhere else, you could redirect that page. You can also simply edit the old content on that current page and update it and point people to other pages that might pertain because it's getting visited quite a bit. So those are things to consider. Additionally, you may think, sometimes I get in a mood where I just want to throw everything away and I don't want anything around. And it's very easy to just say, nope, done, everything's gone. I'm just going to delete it all. But if you do that, it's important to ask yourself if you're ever going to need it again. So if the answer is maybe, or I like the concept or how I created this page and I'd like to remember that for the future, that would be a time where you may want to unpublish the page instead of just deleting it so that you have access to it again in the future. So those are things to consider when you're about to throw something away. Next, we'll talk about giving or sharing information. Sometimes there's content pieces that can be given or to another page. So I think of this in terms of kind of like the items that aren't overused that you might have in your closet and you're going to give to a friend or somebody who could use them. This is what we can think about in regards to snippets of content on our site that we could give or share to other pages. And this also pertains to that second bullet from the keep section. So sometimes we have pages of content that are really, really long, and we may find that that content is really important and you want people to read it, but there's a couple things for maybe why they're not. One, maybe you need to give it a new title. So update the title so that it has more search keywords in it. You could add some imagery to add more interest so that people have a motivation to read the content there. And you may want to shorten it. So looking at your content and deciding, oh, hey, this paragraph would be good on this other page because these two items are relatable and it would make this page a little bit shorter to drive attention. So that's something that's a good idea. Also, if you have pages, like you have a really good page, so you've looked at this page, it's not getting visited, but it's a good page to see. So you can give it attention. So you could look at some of the pages in your list that are getting visited quite often. And so what I usually like to do is see, okay, the grad students page is getting visited quite a bit, but I'm just making this up, but the undergraduate student page isn't, or we have these clubs that are really cool that we want people to see and they're not getting to those, whatever it may be. There are options to add or give a little button in the sidebar to the content so that you'll be able to direct people from a popular page to maybe a not so popular page to keep them on your site and to keep them motivated and essentially seeing the content that you would like them to see. So those are ways to give or share the information on some of the pages on your site to drive people to the important places. Sorry. So other than that, I think really I've talked for about 17 minutes, so I don't want to like bore you too much. But this hopefully will give you a little bit of a concept for maybe how to think about your content and have a little bit of a, for me, when I look at some large project, it's nice to have a little bit of a method. So like some sort of a small structure to know, okay, I'm going to look at this content, I'm going to look at this page, I'm at least going to make a decision on whether I keep it, I throw it, or I give it. And I may not be able to address it and give it the attention it needs today, but I'm going to go through and at least mark my pages however you see fit. Sometimes it's nice to just put your information in an Excel sheet and just kind of like mark what you think what page should be what. And then when you have 10 minutes someday, kind of in the middle of projects, you can go through and probably unpublish a couple pages and maybe spend a couple minutes editing one page. And if you spend 10 to 15 minutes improving the health of your site, the organization of your site, I think that you just should feel good about that and know that I may not have gotten through my entire site like I feel like I should. Don't feel bad, feel good about the fact that you were able to look at a couple of pages. I think those are some key things to be considerate about, and not be too hard on yourself if you don't have that much time, because I know we are all strapped for time. Let's see if there aren't any questions. I'll give you just a second because maybe there are. If anybody has a question, please go ahead and ask. If not, I will give you the little bonus tip for the day. So this is something that, oh, I do see a question. Sorry. How do we set up a redirect? That is a good question. So if you need to set up a redirect, what you'll want to do, well, there's a couple things to consider. First of all, it's really good if you're editing your site and you know that you're gonna end up getting rid of some pages. Here's kind of how I usually like to suggest handling that. One, you go ahead and create the new pages, or if they're already created, start an Excel document so that you kind of have the page URL that you want to go away, and where, if people go to that URL, where should they end up, and we can redirect them to a new place. So if you can give if you just email websupport@iastate.edu and give us a list of those redirects, and it could be 3 or 5, then you can go ahead and send those to us and we can create those redirects. And it'll be great to get those in place before you end up deleting or unpublishing the pages you don't want anymore. So that way it'll prevent folks from getting the 404 error. So that's going to be the best. Okay, the special tip of the day. So this is really cool. This is something that's been around for a little while, and it's called Okta. So we have Okta now when you sign in to Iowa State, and sometimes people may not know that there is a secret gem that is associated with Okta. And that secret gem is that you can add bookmarks to Okta, and if you log in one place, then you don't have to remember the URL link to log into your websites if you bookmark them. So for example, I've put in a couple bookmarks here for a couple websites as an example. And if you click on the bookmark, then you'll end up going to the site and already being logged in because you're already logged into Okta. So this makes it really easy, especially if you have multiple sites or you can't remember the login link or how to get to your sites. So that's a place to go. And the URL is pretty easy to remember. If you can bookmark it, I recommend that you do, is login.iastate.edu. So login.iastate.edu. And if you go here, then you'll get a list of the applications that Iowa State has available to you, and you'll be able to add additional applications if you want. So how do you add a bookmark to your website? To add a bookmark to your website, go to the Add Apps button, and then you can start typing in. So if I wanted to link to a site to log into, I'm just going to choose something. All right, so I just put in economics, and it said no apps were found. So you can add a bookmark instead, and that's what you'll want to do because your sites won't be in here in this list, most likely, so you'll want to just add a bookmark. And you can put the URL to the website in the bookmark. And usually what I like to do is just go to the website that I want, put in the /login after, but I do not click return. I do not go to login. I know it's the /login after. So I copy that path, and then I go back to my bookmark and I paste it in. And then I give it a name. I'm going to call it that, and I'm going to add it. So when I add it, it'll say my bookmark is added. And when I go back home, you'll see that my Department of Economics bookmark is there. And so since I'm already logged into Okta and we use central authentication, when I click on this, I can't remember if I have a profile here or not. I should, but then I'll automatically be logged in. So that's a way to do that. So I just kind of was talking with some folks this week and thought this might be a good thing to share with you, and could make life a little bit easier. You can just bookmark one link, log into iastate.edu, log in once, and then you can get to all the sites and things that you need. So, okay. If there aren't any questions, I think we can wrap up for the day. I appreciate you all being here. And again, this is recorded, so I will be putting it up online soon, and we'll be getting closed captioning on there as well. But please feel free to email websupport@iastate.edu if you have any website questions. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.